Hey, 42 here. Have you ever wondered if it's really as tough as everyone says it is to get into Fort Knox? And what makes a place truly secure anyway? Throughout history, mankind has worked with nature and its own ingenuity to create some of the most fortified places on the planet. They can be found all over the world and serve a wide range of unique and interesting purposes that you might not expect. Here are 9 of the most fortified places on Earth. When you think of a place so secure you'll never get in, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? Well, Fort Knox was probably the first thing you thought of. That's because Fort Knox is synonymous with a secure location in popular culture. Surprisingly, Fort Knox isn't actually the name of the vault where the gold is stored. That's the United States Bullion Depository. Fort Knox is a 109,000-acre army post, which is home to over 12,000 people, the bullion vault itself, and even a high school. The grounds of the bullion depository are secured 24 hours a day by an array of CCTV cameras, motion sensors, and minefields. If you could get past all of that, you would still need to scale the surrounding electric fences topped with barbed wire, get through the granite walls, and somehow open the 25-ton vault door. The vault is guarded by the United States Mint Police, an elite force tasked with protecting assets belonging to the United States Treasury and the US Mint. If that wasn't enough, there are around 30,000 army troops stationed at Fort Knox base, so if you do decide to try and take the title of the person that stole from Fort Knox, you better bring an army because you'll be fighting one. Gold bars aren't the only treasures that have been stored behind the reinforced door though. In World War II, both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were secured there for protection. Morphine and opium were even held there at one point, in case the US became isolated from raw sources of opium. It seems crazy that the government were hoarding drugs in a gold vault, but until synthetic painkillers were invented, opiates were the only ones available. I guess they didn't like the idea of fighting a war without painkillers. Despite the legacy of Fort Knox, it isn't actually the largest depository of gold in North America, but we'll get to that a bit later. Instead of gold bars, what about golden plates? Don't have any of them laying around? Well, fear not, the Mormon Church have got you covered. Whilst not quite the golden pages of Joseph Smith, the microfilm reels and sheets of microfiche stored in the Granite Mountain Records Vault have enough space on them to store over 4.5 billion pages of genealogical records. Now that's what you call a family album. The vault itself is located 1 mile up Little Cottonwood Canyon in Utah and is built into the side of the mountain. Wide loading bays allow access to the tunnels leading into the rock face, giving way to rooms deep inside the mountain. It's in these deep, secretive recesses that you find them. Hundreds upon hundreds of rows of cabinets containing an unimaginable amount of family history. All the rooms are climate controlled to preserve the data, and each room is protected by heat and motion sensors to detect any problems that could lead to damage of the records. Whilst it's not as guarded as Fort Knox, the measures which the Mormon Church have gone through to protect and preserve these records is simply amazing. They even have a lab on site ready to save and reproduce any records that have begun to degrade. The facility and its purpose are also relatively unknown to most people. The church has gone to great lengths to keep the vault as secluded and secretive as possible. Sorry guys. Photos of the site itself are extremely difficult to find. If you're ever wondering where you came from and ever use a genealogical database to trace your ancestors, there's a good chance that documents stored in the Mormon Church's vault played a part in tracing your history. Somewhere in the deep rolling hills of Pennsylvania, there lies an innocent winding road, which leads up to a remarkably out-of-place chain link fence. If you keep going, you will eventually be stopped by some serious looking security guards carrying some equally serious looking weaponry. This is the point where you are either going to be told to take a hike or present your papers in order to enter the highly secure facility on the other side of the fence. You've just found Iron Mountain. This is a place where most of the vault owners are confidential, so you know there's going to be some serious security in keeping things locked away and hidden from prying eyes. The facility takes advantage of a retired limestone mine, and they effectively moved in after the rocks moved out. This provided a geologically secure and cost-effective way to house an incredibly valuable storage bunker. The 220 vaults contain a variety of valuables from birth certificates to microfilms backing up some extremely valuable documents. These are the kinds of images that the world couldn't do without, such as the original picture of Einstein sticking his tongue out. As you wander around the facility, probably with an escort, you will notice just how large it is. The whole storage area is around 100 acres and employs a team of 155 people working underground to keep its contents maintained. Deep within the facility lies a room which emits a low hum as you approach it. No, it isn't some kind of doomsday machine hidden along with the other secretive objects. The low hum comes from the energy-efficient generators and cooling ducts that keep one of the world's most important data hives running smoothly. This is the home of Room 48, a data center used as a backup for some of America's biggest companies. It isn't the only data center humming away in the former mine, but one of 5. Room 48 is just the most well known, since it has some pretty clever energy-saving tricks up its sleeve, giving it a 50% power advantage over almost every other data center in the country. Whether it's your family photo stored in a vault or your cloud storage business safely backed up in Room 48, your assets are definitely going to be safe in Iron Mountain. One place that you'd probably never want to go to, even if you could, is the Korean DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone. Despite its name, it's one of the most heavily militarized areas on the planet. This no man's land stretches the entire 160-mile border between North and South Korea, and is 2.5 miles wide. Tall, razor wire fences, which are usually electrified, line each side of the no man's land. Listening posts, guard towers, and anti-tank barricades are dotted across the landscape as far as the eye can see. To top it all off, there are hundreds of thousands of active soldiers patrolling both sides, ready for war at any moment. If you do manage to evade the guards, scale the electric fences, dodge the landmines, and avoid the automatic gun turrets, then you'll probably still end up as the meal of some wild animal. Due to the uninhabitable nature of the dangerous no man's land, the area has become something of a nature reserve, where some extremely rare plants and animals have found their unlikely home. These endangered animals include the iconic red-crowned crane, and the majestic but dangerous Siberian tiger. The DMZ was created as an armistice agreement to pacify the brutal Korean War. Technically, both nations are still at war, which is fairly unnerving, since North Korea has since developed nuclear weapons and regularly threatens to use them if provoked. That doesn't mean everything has been peaceful though. Between 1953 and 1999, around 500 South Koreans, 50 US troops, and 250 North Koreans have died in sporadic outbreaks of conflict within the highly militarized zone. Of the around 50,000 people that have defected from the north to the south, only a handful have actually crossed the southern border through the DMZ. That goes to show just how fortified and dangerous the border really is, and how well it works. Back in medieval times, people used moats and drawbridges to keep their annoying neighbours away. But one abbey took that idea of a moat a bit too far. Mons Isle is a natural island fortress. The outcrop was formed 525 million years ago, during the Cambrian period, and is made from volcanic granite. Over millions of years, the softer rock around it was worn away to leave the now 92-metre high outcrop, towering high above the surrounding bay. The abbey is tidally isolated. Where it's high tide, the surrounding marshes, lowlands, and land bridges are swallowed up into the watery depths, along with anything locked outside the gates. That could have been peasants who weren't permitted to enter, or invading armies trying to claim the Mon for themselves. This natural process provides a fantastic deterrent against a siege, since they usually lasted from days to months. But the tide meant any army would only have a few hours to take the fort, or they would lose their men, supplies and siege equipment to the sea. Even if you were determined enough to swim up to the island to try and get access, you're probably better off waiting for the tides and gates to lower, as Mons Isle has some pretty serious fortifications. The entirety of the island is surrounded by a large wall with battlements, ready to repel invaders. The streets and passageways up to the monastery are very narrow and are flanked by elevated walkways that are perfect for raining down arrows or boiling oil. Basically, if you are trying to get to the top to check out the view, but you're not quite welcome, you're gonna have a bad time. Mons Isle remained unconquered during the entirety of the 100-Year War between France and England. Even a small garrison fended off a full attack by the English in 1433. Several siege machines were abandoned by the English during the failed assault, as the tides closed in, and they can still be seen today. These days, there's a bridge which gives people access from the mainland, even at high tide. But every 18 years or so, a super tide comes along, and last year, 2015, in March, it temporarily submerged part of the bridge, making Mons Isle a true island fortress once more. If you happen to find yourself surviving a disaster that wipes out most of the planet's crops, there's no need to worry about starving. You just have to take a quick trip down to your local Doomsday Seed Vault and pick up a packet or two. The Fortified Global Seed Vault is so fortified that it could survive the apocalypse. Or at least it should do, or else the owners might want their money back. The vault was designed to outlast almost any imaginable disaster, ranging from extreme climate change to a nuclear war. Built on the Norwegian island of Spitsbergen, only 1,300 kilometers from the North Pole, the vault is about as isolated as a location can be without being inaccessible. If you do manage to fight your way through the local polar bears and reach the vault, you will find a wedge-shaped hunk of concrete sticking out of an icy mountain. Get past the heavy security and front doors and you enter a reinforced tunnel which burrows 120 meters into the solid rock. The Fortified Global Seed Vault serves as a highly secure backup for other seed vaults around the world that are in less fortified locations. The vault currently holds millions of seeds from thousands of crop species across the world, secured in airtight aluminium packets and refrigerated at -18 degrees Celsius. Whilst it's not the comfiest of places to spend your time, the conditions are perfect for preserving most seed species indefinitely. Because the facility was built in such a remote location with such frigid conditions, even if the power fails, the temperature would stabilise to around -3 degrees Celsius, cold enough to keep some crucial seeds preserved for decades. It may not be the most heavily guarded location on the planet, but a vault that could potentially outlast the rest of humanity definitely earns the right to be on this list. When a bunker used to be the North American Aerospace Command Center, as well as spearheading US Space Command missions, you know that it's going to have some pretty serious hardware behind those heavy blast doors. Buried 600 meters under a granite mountain in Colorado Springs lies the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, a massive military structure built in 1967 by the US government to be a central operations base. The bunker was designed to withstand the most powerful weapons ever created and is able to survive a 30 megaton nuclear detonation within 2 kilometers, a blast that would completely flatten a large metropolis like London or New York City. That's pretty impressive. The main access tunnel is lined with a series of 25-ton blast doors, each with pressurized compartments designed to filter out any nuclear, biological or chemical contaminants. At the height of its operation, these checkpoints would have been heavily guarded, and only those with the highest military clearance were able to enter. The facility was fully self-contained and provided living quarters for round-the-clock operation. Everything the base needed was provided or stored on site, with power generators, food and water storage, as well as fuel reservoirs, ensuring that the base could still operate when cut off from the outside world. This level of secrecy and security brought the base fame in pop culture, with conspiracy theories and television shows like Stargate being based on the military complex. The base actually acknowledged this and installed a seemingly high security door labelled Stargate Command, which led to a storage room for cleaning equipment. Cheyenne Mountain has since been retired from its original command centre duties, and is now reserved for training and commercial communications use. Though fully operational or not, I would definitely prefer to be standing inside the bunker in an emergency than outside it banging on the blast doors trying to get in. I mentioned earlier that Fort Knox wasn't the world's leading stockpile of gold, and that's because that honour belongs to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. It's the largest Federal Reserve Bank in America, and like the others, it holds an incredible amount of cash, gold, and other valuables. Like most banks, there is a 24/7 quick response tactical assault team on standby for any sign that the bank is being robbed. The armed guards in and around the building go through tough training courses to spot the telltale signs that give away someone who might be there attempting to make a bigger withdrawal than they're entitled to. Past all the security and down a few flights of stairs lies the gold vault, protected by a massive steel door with a multiple lock mechanism. People aren't even allowed inside the vault itself. All interaction and movement of gold is done by robots carrying pallets. I guess robots are the only thing that wouldn't get gold fever being surrounded by tons of shiny yellow metal. The vault isn't just buried underground, but dug into the very bedrock of Lower Manhattan. It actually sits at 80 feet below the street level, so if you plan on digging your way in, it's going to take a long time. But that's assuming one of the marksmen that patrol the perimeter of the building doesn't spot you before you even break through the concrete. With the armed guards, security checks, the heavy vault doors, and rock foundations, I'm afraid the only way you're going to see any gold is if you own it. The vault contains 7,000 tons of gold as of the last official inventory in 2011. That's far more than reported anywhere else in the world. So if somebody does ever manage the impossible and break into the vault, they're going to have a tough time carrying it out. When you picture a heavily fortified location, you probably think about bunkers or vaults or even your wallet when it's your turn to get the next round in, but probably not boats. Well, this isn't any old boat. The USS George HW Bush is arguably the most fortified military position on the planet. Despite, well, not actually staying in one place, it's one of 10 Nimitz-class supercarriers in the United States Navy. And as well as being almost impervious to attack, it's one of the most formidable sights for an enemy to see. You sure as hell don't want to be the reason why it's arrived armed and ready for action. At 332 meters long and weighing around 100,000 tons when fully loaded, it's no surprise that its presence means business. It's capable of carrying 90 aircraft, including helicopters, and can launch one every 20 seconds on offensive or defensive missions. Capable of repelling entire navies of some countries by itself, a US carrier strike group, which works with the aircraft carrier, has multiple layers of state-of-the-art defense. Dedicated cruisers, destroyers, and frigates work together to defend the carrier from attack by air and sea. Whether the assailants are other ships or submarines, the group works closely with advanced radar systems and electronic countermeasures to spot enemies long before they are in range and interfere with their capability to fight. The aircraft carrier itself has an array of weaponry, from a number of surface-to-air missile launchers that target enemy aircraft, to phalanx weapon systems which lock on to incoming missiles and shred them in a hail of bullets. Even if something does make it all the way through the battle group, the swarms of advanced aircraft and the carrier's point defense guns, you would still need to get through the 2.5-inch thick Kevlar armor which protects the vital parts of the ship. So yeah, unless you have a large army with some sophisticated weaponry, you probably aren't going to land a scratch. There's a fortified place for almost every situation, whether it's surviving the end of the world, hoarding your treasure, or repelling the British. Thanks for the view, subscribe for more 42.